Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Season 2, Episode 3 of your favorite Look Up podcast.
That's right.
The only Look Up podcast. We're back and we're excited. Today is Sunday that we're filming this, and we just got out of church and we just had a really good sermon. So
Yes, we did.
We're really excited to just talk about that and maybe anything else at the top of our mind. But I was going to tell you, when we were walking down the stairs this morning, I was thinking in my head, well, I said it out loud too, but then we had to keep going back inside the house because Roman kept forgetting things. But anyways, so I was telling you. And I was like, you know what I realized? And then you said, what? If I didn't get to finish.
Oh, yeah. You never told me that.
Oh, okay. So this is what I realized this morning. So right outside, or right in front of our door, we have a big cork board, to give you guys a reference. And on the cork board, I put the calendar on there every month, and kind of just put like important dates, things that we kind of have to remember, like big important things. And then I also put like my goals, and then right underneath my goals I always put like a quote that I just feel like comes to me, that I feel like I want for the month. And this month I wrote down, ask and you shall receive. And as I was leaving the door this morning, like a thought came into my mind, and it was something that actually like I realized earlier in the week but just didn't want to voice anything about. But when it comes down to that quote, we talk about it so often, and I talk about it so often, but I think I forget the power of what that means. And what I realized this morning is that when it comes to asking and receiving, you need to be specific in what you ask for.
Right.
I think you can go on this outer lane, by the way. But what I mean by that is I think too often, for me, for example, I'll just speak on myself. Like I will ask like, God, I just want to be successful. Like, can you make me successful? And I think that I don't get in specifics of what that actually looks like. You know, to get there, right?
No.
You can go straight, get on the freeway. If there's one thing that you guys should know about Roman is that we've lived in Vegas our entire life, and he has no idea how to get anywhere without Apple Maps. And because we film on our phone, he cannot open up Apple Maps. He has to get directions how to get home from like almost everywhere we are. It could be somewhere that we go often, and he still needs to get directions there and directions back home.
I sure do.
And then
I have no shame.
His excuse is, I just want to see how long it's going to take for us to get there.
That's not an excuse that's valid.
However, he doesn't know actually how to get there.
Hey, that's the weakness of having technology, bro, right? It weakens you.
But anyways, back to what I was saying. Yeah, I think that I sometimes will just ask those basic things of like, God, I ask that you grant us good health. I ask that you bring us your joy and your peace. And I think like too often it's like, well, what am I asking for? Because I think it's like God knows what I'm asking in my heart, but I'm just not voicing it specifically.
Right.
Like it could be something as down to like, okay, so I work in sales. So sometimes it's like, well, God, I ask that you, bless me in my career. Bless me in financially, but sometimes it's like, I need to get down to like, God, I ask that you speak with me in this conversation and help me get this appointment to close the deal. You know what I mean? And I think it's like, that's what I realized this week, of not being afraid to get really bold in the ask. And he showed up, which is funny enough as it is. I had like a lot of those random, like really good meetings this week. Or maybe not. I don't think I told you. But
you never told me that, no.
I did. And it all came from just being really bold in the ask. And I was even asking really boldly for Roman. And same thing in financially. And also asking really boldly in like, I think my spiritual walk, I think I've really fallen short of asking what I feel like I should be doing more of in it. And just like, not being afraid to say like, I need you to reveal to me exactly what you think I should do when it comes to serving. Like, you know what I mean? And the verse is there, and he tells us that to show that if we ask, we will receive. But it's like, if we're not asking, if we're not showing what, it's like a relationship. I think of us, and it's like, if I am not vocal to you, because you say it all the time. You're like, I'm not a mind reader, though God can read our minds, but he knows our hearts. But
he knows our intentions. Yeah.
He knows our intentions. But at the end of the day, it's
I'm not God.
Right. And
neither is your spouse. Neither is no one else in your life.
You need to be open with voicing all of that. Even to God is what I'm trying to say.
And even with him.
Yeah.
He still needs you to voice it, right?
Right.
So that's good.
So that's just something that I realized today. But I thought I would just share that with you.
It's just to speak on it, ask it, claim it,
Uh-huh.
pronounce it, speak it aloud. That's why you should pray, right?
Right.
That's why prayer is so important, is because you speak it.
You do. And there was another thing too when I was really going, like, I get down in the dumps.
Because think
sometimes.
about this. Hold on. But think about this. How powerful words are. Because what was in the beginning?
Word.
The word.
Mm-hmm.
Intentions weren't in the beginning.
Right.
The word was in the beginning.
Right.
The act on intentions, the speaking of intentions was in the beginning.
That's the point. The act of on your intentions.
Right.
There's like that quote of everyone wants to be judged by their intentions, but you're actually judged by what
your
you do,
actions,
by your actions.
by what you do.
Mm-hmm. And I think it goes down to that same exact thing. I think that's why it wasn't just like think and you shall receive.
It's ask and
you
knock.
Shall receive.
And it shall be open to you.
The act of knocking.
Right. Knock and it shall be opened unto you.
Like you can't just pull up to the door and be like, well, I'm here. You need to knock.
Right.
No, how will they know to show up? Even if you have your Ring doorbell, you still need to knock.
And seek and you shall find.
You need to look for it.
Yeah.
All three of those are like physical actions.
Uh-huh.
Not so much if you were to even say think, that is an action, but the physical act of doing something, I think will further then prove to even yourself, do I actually want that?
Right. Thought is so ambiguous though, right?
Right, because you have a million of them. And you could think
is it an action?
Different things at the same time.
Right? It's an action that's unseen.
Sometimes it's an action that's not active. You're going to think and then passively. You could passively think.
It's like that riddle or whatever. You know, there's three frogs on a log and two decided to jump off.
How many
are left on the log?
Yeah.
And it's still three.
Still three because
just because you decided doesn't mean that you actually did it.
Mm-hmm. True. Wow.
That's true.
So it's that physical, seeking. That was something that I think, I didn't even think of that, but I was thinking more of just being specific. But now that you bring it up that way, it's you need to act on it.
Right. You have to be active. Your feet have to keep moving.
Right.
In the work. Because what's faith without works?
Right. In the Bible, it says faith without works is dead.
It's dead. But you need faith behind the works.
Right. You can't just do work with no faith. But you can't really just have faith without
working though.
Because at the end of the day, it's one thing I believe, then why aren't you doing anything about it? Do you not believe then?
You can have all the faith in the world.
I believe God will provide, but I'll just sit here.
So I'm just gonna wait on him.
You don't believe that.
Right. People think waiting on the Lord is literally just sitting doing nothing and praying that he's going to just show up.
Right, but waiting on the Lord is an action. It is an action. Waiting is an action. Mm-hmm. You could do things while you wait.
Right. It's not doing nothing. Waiting is not doing nothing. And that, I think that people get that mixed up a lot.
Right, because I think of this, for example, someone who is sick and they're in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And they're well, I'm going to wait on God. He's going to perform a miracle. But you waiting means go straight.
Oh.
You waiting means that I just forgot my train of thought. You're gonna get off on the 215.
Okay, got you. And I think that may be something that we could talk on too. It's just where's your GPS? You're lost without your GPS. Is God your GPS? Your God positioning system.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So you're waiting. Say you're in the hospital and you're well, I'm gonna wait on God to perform a miracle. But that waiting means you actively doing the regimen that the doctor wants you to do, you taking the medication,
you going to chemotherapy,
you going to rehab, not just sitting in the bed and just waiting.
Because look at my grandma.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Because Roman's grandma, she's in the hospital
right now,
and
don't get it twisted. I love my grandma with all my heart, and she's an amazing woman, and she's lived a great life. But she's waiting.
Not dead.
She's not dead. She's not dead. And I think that's what she needs to hear, is that you are not dead.
Right.
You are still alive. But she's laid up in that hospital bed right now. She's She's done. She's given up. And I prayed for her today in church. I was like, God, please keep that flame alive in her right now and give her the hope and the faith that she needs to continue to fight for her life. But without that faith, and all she needs is just a mustard seed of faith with the action on top of it.
But that mustard seed of faith comes with action.
But as soon as that mustard seed goes out, it's done. It's done.
Which reminds me, because I'm reading this book that I think I talked about before, but it went on to the story of hopelessness.
Right.
And there was this experiment. I'll explain it. So the psychologists, they were doing this experiment with dogs. And the experiment was basically every time they ring a bell, they shock the dog. Okay, inhumane, I agree, but let's just, whatever. So they do that. So then they put the dogs in a box, okay? And there's a little barrier. They can easily jump over it, though. So there's like a barrier in this box. They're on one side of the barrier. They ring the bell. They get shocked no matter what, okay? They jump over to the other side, on this other side of the box. No, they will not get shocked. So one side they learn, they get shocked. One side they learn, they don't get shocked with the bell, okay? They've found that the dogs were staying on the side that they get shocked. In their minds, they learned that no matter what, if I hear the bell, I'm going to get shocked. And so they thought that, okay, this was a failed experiment, like what happened here? And what they ended up finding is that they taught the dogs hopelessness. That even though they could very easily jump over to the other side of the box and not experience the shock, they just got shocked too many times where they felt like, well, what's the point? There's no reason for me to try and jump over because I'm going to get shocked no matter what. And it's very true in so much in humans' life. So they did an experiment with humans. And they were put in this room, okay? There was a control group as well. So there's a control group of people. There's another group, the experiment group, with people. In the room, there's a control panel, okay? The control panel controls the sound. So in the control group, they have the sound go off. There's a sound in the room, and it's like an unbearable sound, okay? Like a ringing noise. And they were told to go use the control panel to turn it off. So they did, and it worked, okay? The experiment group, they were put in that room, the noise blaring, they went to the control panel, it didn't work, right? It was the psychologist intended for that to happen, where no matter what they did on the control panel, the sound didn't go off. So they moved them. So the next part of the experiment was they moved them into a totally different room, the experiment group and the control group. And same thing, there's a panel and there's a blaring noise. The control group, because they learned in the previous thing that they mess with the control panel, the sound will go off, they did. So that's what happened. The experiment group, the one where the sound went off and the control panel didn't work to turn it off, what they found is when they were put into a totally different room, it was a different room, okay? The sound was going crazy. They found that these people's hands, they didn't even move. They just laid it on the control panel. They didn't even try to turn off the noise. They learned that, well, it won't work, so why bother trying? And there's so many times where I think that happens in our own life, where it's like we get shocked, we hear a blaring noise, we get, whatever it may be, life happens. It just happens. It's going to keep happening. And even if it just happens a couple of times, we'll learn, like, well, what's the point?
It's taught hopelessness. That's what it is. And I think that says a lot to, like, how you're raised too. I think a lot of people blame a lot of stuff on how they're raised and their parents and their upbringing. But that experiment kind of debunks that it's not environment that breaks you or changes you or makes you who you are. It's the actions done in those environments that breaks you and changes you and makes you who you are. Because there's plenty of people that have grown up in similar situations, tough situations, great situations, bad situations, and they've gone left and then they've gone right. It's the taught hopelessness or the taught hope that you experience in those environments that shapes you to who you are. And a man without hope is killed faster than a speeding bullet. It just takes longer to put him into the ground.
That's true.
That's it.
And I think that's where it's like, where you need to lean on, and kind of back to the sermon that we just came out of, which was really, really good, of like, you cannot do it on your own with God. You cannot do it on your own, right? It's period.
Right. And you may be like a Christian, so you add with God at the end.
Yeah, right. That was funny.
I can do it on my own with God. I can do all things on my own through God. So you need to bring other people in. You got to stop being so selfish in your life, and you have to start thinking about
others.
How can I serve other people? And that really hit me big time when our pastor was talking about that. It's just like, I'm doing a lot of stuff in life right now. I'm trying to start a lot of businesses, but why am I doing that? It's for me.
Right.
It's for the extra money on my end.
Right.
It's so that I can, eventually own a bunch of businesses and not have to work a job anymore. And I'm not thinking about other people and the need that's out there. Like, we're doing an initiative right now at our church called Hope for the City. And I'm like, it's these many little kids out here in the city that I live in without food, that probably live next door to me, that live in the neighborhood right over with no food. How can I make a difference? How can I make an impact? What can I do? And maybe that's why I'm not happy in what I'm doing, because it's all about me.
Yeah.
And I'm chasing happiness, and I'm not chasing service.
And he brought up a good point about happiness, because I am very guilty of that, where it's like, well, my only goal in life is just to be happy.
I just want to be happy.
I just want to be happy. And like, I'll stop doing things because it doesn't make me happy. I'll start doing things because it makes me happy. And I'm constantly chasing this self-absorbed, really what it is.
Yep. Happiness is selfish.
Of happiness. And instead of chasing happiness, because he said, if you are constantly going after happiness, you will always feel frustrated.
Yep.
Because, and if I was thinking of that, well, why? Because life is just up and down. It's never just pristine and perfect. And you're going to keep chasing this pristine, perfect life. It's never going to happen. So you will always feel in a state of frustration and like anger almost too. And I think that's where people can learn to be like, well, what the heck, God, you're so perfect and you control everything.
Why am I not happy?
Why am I not happy? And why did you take away my family? And why did I lose my job? And why, you know what I mean? So instead of chasing that, he said, think of like, how can I be useful?
Yep.
To others.
How can I
be
be of use today? How can I be of use today? Right.
And it is true. I mean, when looking at, like, he is explaining the story of Jesus's disciples who were all arguing with each other.
Because people chase position. They chase position and
power,
influence, and no purpose.
Right.
They chase position, power, and without purpose. And I think that's what the story he's talking about today about the disciples is, that the disciples wanted power, and they wanted position, and they wanted influence, and they wanted honor, and they wanted respect. And they were like, can I be at your right and left? I want to be at your right side and your left side in your kingdom, Lord. And they didn't even do it. They sent their moms to do it. But they don't even realize that at the end of the day, he's like, you don't even know what you're asking for. You don't even know what you're asking for. Because when you drink this cup that I'm about to drink, you don't want to be on my right and left side. Because the people that were on his right and left side when he was on that cross were crucified with him. And not a single one of his disciples were on that cross with him.
Yeah.
You know who was on his right and left side? A thief and a murderer. Mm-hmm. God wasn't sent here for you, the perfect, the righteous, the guy that thinks he's got it all figured out, and he's just such a good Christian. He's here for the people that are not saved. He's here for the hopeless.
And I think that's a good reminder too, as believers in Christ. I don't even want to say the term Christians, because it goes down to that argument of people just chasing religion more so than they are chasing their relationship with God. But as followers of Christ, I think we need to learn, and it goes down to that Kanye line that I talk about all the time in the song. He's like, the Christians be the first one to judge me. It feels like nobody loved me. Yep. And it's true. I mean, I was even watching this. I didn't watch it. I saw this video on YouTube of, it was titled something like, if Christians were 100% honest. And I was just reading the comments, and I was just constant like, well, this is why I don't like Christians. They're so judgmental.
It was upsetting.
And it is, because there's so many followers of Christ who will sit and put themselves on a high throne and look down on people who have abortions, and who will speak against gay people, and who will hate on anything that they don't feel is right, you know, and you know, even Jesus did not like the religious leaders and all their freaking rules,
Bro,
and
yes.
he spoke out all against that. He did everything that the Jewish
He was
leaders were
he was
against.
literally
He was sitting with
crucified by
the Jews,
by Jewish, by I wouldn't even say I would say the Christians of today.
yeah, let's just say
I would
that
say the Christians of
the
today.
top pristine, I'm a religious
Yes.
person and I'm gonna go to heaven.
This is how you should be.
This
You
is how
shouldn't
life
do
should
this
be.
and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You're gonna go to hell for this.
Yeah.
It was those type of people
Yeah.
that he was crucified by. But it was through the Romans, of course.
Through the Romans.
The Romans didn't even care.
He didn't even want to.
He didn't even want to crucify
the Roman leader,
Jesus.
He was just like,
he's like, this is an innocent man.
Innocent. Yeah. And then they
but
were all
like, it's up to you.
Like,
this is your
him.
right. This is your guy. He's a part of your people. Like, we'll let you guys do what you want to do with him. And they said, crucify him. They spat in his face. They beat him.
Mm.
Those are the people that you should not think are true followers of Christ.
Yes,
that are true believers, because there is no compassion there.
There is no compassion. There is no love.
That's not even what we teach. That's not even what's in the Bible.
Mm.
So
that's the thing, because people can misinterpret the Bible.
It's a poor representation.
They take verses and they misconstrue it to make it for their own agenda. And we have been around people like that, where they use the Bible and they twist it around to make us think like, damn, like God must not trust me enough, or like I suck, or look at them, like I should be looking down on them because they're doing this and this and this, which is not biblical. And we hung around people like that, and we used to think that way because of those people that we used to hang around, and coming away from that and being able to instead chase that idea of religion and look into that to more so the relationship to have with God. I think we really learn to understand God's true intention, God's true heart, and God's true purpose for us as his people.
And it's way more complex than right and wrong for God.
Right.
If you're trying to box God into right and wrong, in any type of way, it's got to be this way or it's got to be that way. You haven't even read the Bible.
Right.
You haven't even read it. If you think that it's specific right and wrong, this is how it is.
And if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. You need to read the
know
Bible.
how many messed up people and how many broken people he's used in the Bible?
Moses, a murderer.
Yep. Saul, Apostle Paul, who he becomes Paul. He murdered Christians.
That was
hundreds
his
of them.
Goal
that was his job.
Hunt down Christians and murder them, and he used him. He did not judge him and condemn him to hell. And I think there's too many people that use the term "I am a Christian" who look at others and say, "You're going to go to hell for having an abortion. You're going to go to hell for being gay." Right. And I think that those people themselves need, more than anything, a relationship with God. And I can't even be the ones to judge them, because it's not even their own fault.
Right.
It's the religion that they're chasing and the people that they're chasing. And instead of chasing God, they're going after people and man and man's opinions. And they're becoming too much of the world and of the culture.
Because religion is man-made.
It is.
Religion is man-made. Jesus never made Christianity.
He didn't.
He never made it. He just had a ministry to advance God.
He never called it.
He never even called it a ministry.
Religion. He
never even called it. He didn't even call it a ministry. He never even said, "This is my religion. We're going to call this Christianity." He never said that. That was made up later.
We were all created as followers of God.
Period.
And everything that Jesus did was to glorify God.
And to reveal God's true intention for the world.
Right.
And to be a representation of his compassion and his love and who he's about. And that's always going to be shown through service and the loving and the helping of other people.
Always.
That is what God represents. Not judgment. Mm-hmm. He is the only one that holds that right.
Yep.
And he doesn't even do it until your last freaking moment.
That's true. You could be a martyr your entire life.
Up to the last second, he doesn't judge you.
And you say, "God, I repent."
He gives you every single opportunity, the last millisecond, to judge you. He doesn't even do it your entire life. And he still hasn't even judged Satan. He still believes one day Satan's going to come back home.
That's emotional for me.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, who are we to do something God doesn't even do often?
Right. Like, who are we to condemn? Who are we to tell what is right, what is wrong?
Right.
I think if we lived more in the service of others, in
Yep.
love, in kindness, and compassion in our hearts, I think we will learn.
The world would change.
The world will change. That we will learn to come more together.
Yep.
God. The devil wants nothing more than for us to be divided.
Because we're easy to beat when we're divided.
Especially among his own people.
Yep.
And it's like, and even more so now where it's like even more of a divide. The devil's coming in there and he's saying like,
red or blue.
Abortion
or not abortion.
Or you're liberal. And if you're conservative, then F you, you're going to hell. You need to be liberal. You know, whatever it may be. Because it's on the opposite end as well.
He wants to divide us.
He wants us to be more divided because we're easier to conquer when we don't have a team around us.
When we're not unified.
This is something I actually got from the Mighty Ducks, the Disney show. It's a really good show. But they were sitting around a campfire and each one was like giving them a stick.
Yeah, that was good.
Giving her a stick of, they're talking about like, this is what I really is on my heart. And then they give her this branch. Okay, so she said when we're alone, and she took one branch and broke it. She said we're easy to be broken.
Yep.
She said, but when we're together, and she took all their branches, and it was like 5 or 6 branches, and she tried to break it. She's like, we're a lot harder to break. And I think it's the same exact way when it comes to how the devil is trying to work in the world right now. Yep. When we're all divided, we're so much easier when we isolate ourselves, and we isolate our opinions, and we try and put ourselves as Christians on a high horse or on the opposite set, and
us versus them.
Exactly.
Us versus Muslims.
We're
us
easy
versus Jewish people.
To
us
get
versus
broken.
Right.
We're easy to get controlled.
That's an easy dub for Satan.
But when we're together and we're united,
unstoppable.
You can't break us.
A cord of three strings is never broken, right? That's the verse in the Bible.
Right.
When you only got one, easily broken. When it's 3, it's hard to break.
So that's our message for y'all today. That's what's just been on our hearts and what we've been thinking about. But,
fiery.
We'd love to talk more about it if you want to communicate with us.
Yeah.
Like, I love having conversations
Jump in the convo
about this. As we always end all of our podcasts, Psalms verse 121, verses 1 through 3. Again, I lift my eyes up to the mountain.
Where does my help come from? It comes from the Lord, the creator of heaven and earth.
Amen. So thank you all. Catch us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
Yep.
For the most part, at the Lookup Pod. We're here for you guys every Tuesday. We may have guests. We may have not. I don't know. We're just kind of like in a space. I know we promised guests, so we're just in a space where it's like we just want to share and we want to be of use, and we want to, because I think like when we get too caught up in ourselves and making ourselves more known, and I think it clouds our thinking of, we're remembering that we're doing this for the glory of God.
Right.
To share more of who he is, of where we are in our relationship with him, and how we all can kind of learn and grow together with that.
Right.
So anyways, we love you guys. Thank you for listening.